Hello. Drupal and Gatsby static without limits. Building more than 1K pages in less than what it takes to make a coffee. Hope your coffees are ready. My name is Oyer Bravo Urtasun, and I work at Pico. We have more than 20 years of web development experience, and we have been working with Drupal for the last 10 years, more or less. So 1 year, 2 years ago, we have a big challenge. We always worked with a Drupal monolith. So it came to us this kind of monolith. 42 Amazon instances. So it was very expensive, very cost. The maintenance cost of the infrastructure was very high, and the development experience it wasn't so good. The results quite impressive. So you may ask how we did it. Our recipe, okay, Drupal plus Gatsby. We think that it's maybe not the best, but it suits us very well because we have a big experience in Drupal, and we have also teams that work with React. So for us, was pretty straightforward to test and build an infrastructure like this one. Okay, this is how it looks. Okay, Jamstack in a nutshell. Static content, pre-built HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, a static file host. We understand Jamstack also like a faster, more secure, and less expensive. Okay. Drupal as a content repository. We have tried many CMS out there, and we're trying to break the monolith, trying to see what other people was doing. So we think that right now, after all this research, we think that Drupal is the best content repository because the development experience is very good, as you know it, and you can build almost anything you like in, or you think, or you imagine, you dream in Drupal. So for us, was clear that we had to try a way to integrate this in this. For us, the most important part of the Drupal was to have a content repository that was not tied to the front end in this case. And we identified three key components of the content stack, to say in a way: configurations, translations, and content. Content is the most obvious, but we live in Spain, and we have translations to become almost it's like always, we have always translations in our installations. Configurations is the other Drupal part that many times come in, and it's important to build a site. Gatsby instant navigation. We have tried many static site generators, and we think Gatsby is the best suit for this task because it is content-centric. It has one of the fastest build times. We love the prefetch functionality because when you when you navigate a site and you come on the mouse or your viewport, it sees a link. React does the prefetch, so it becomes instant navigation. So Drupal Static Suite was born. We identify these key components, okay? Export, build, deploy, and preview. Uh, okay, so static suite. Okay, sorry, having issues. Okay, exporting. We leverage in our solution with GraphQL. So to take a look how we export things, how everybody sees this. Okay, pretty straightforward. We use the 3x version of the GraphQL module for Drupal. For us, it was an easy decision because at the time the version 4 was not mature enough to use it. And in our case, our Drupal team is made mostly by backend and developers and site builders. So we love the functionality that comes with the Drupal GraphQL free version, that it exposes every field of Drupal with its own name. So take a look. We use field media, field taxonomy, and so on and so on. We have special config pages for the menus because, as you know, menus are one of the most important things in a Drupal, sorry, in a website, and it's maybe one of the trickiest part to implement in a good way. So exporting the menu as a content was a huge advantage for us. Okay, so sorry. Okay, exporting. Exporting in our case is done with the GQuest. So every time you save a node, you change a taxonomy, you change a configuration, even when you change translations, we export every single change in a JSON file. We leverage on GraphQL, but at the end, and the most important thing for us was to have a full site in static content. And the build process is just there are two types where you have the sim machine that generates the content and makes a build, and after it can deploy it. Or you can have a cloud function, a pipeline, a GitHub action, whatever you like to make the build in the cloud. So the build process is normally at least in our case, it's just a shell command to launch. So you can make the whole build process in whatever tool you like Hugo, like Next, or Gatsby in our case. The deploy. The deploy, obviously, it's the point where you have the build and you push it to a CDN or a static site or a static host to serve the full HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like we see, oops, sorry, like we see here. So, then there's also another part like the search service, payment gateway, cloud services, third-party integrations. We export manually every content in a way that we can, for example, um, push it to an Elasticsearch or another third-party search engine. So we don't need to expose the full solar instance like we did before. So it was a very huge improvement, and it's one of the key features in many of our sites. So at the end, we have a Drupal content repository. The content repository itself, it can be accessible to the public, or you can even shut down the content management itself and use it only in office hours. You can have in a closed environment. So the build process in our testings we do with code builds, and it allow us to make as many as concurrent builds we need. If a build it's broken, so let's say the JSON formatting is not good, or you can do as many tests as you need to ensure that your content is gonna be okay. If anything goes wrong, you just don't deploy the site, so the old site is still available. That was very important for us because, as you know, in Drupal, or at least in our experience, many times when you deploy things can go wrong, and when it's in production, it's too late to do anything. Okay, a preview. We have tailored a custom solution for Drupal and Gatsby. However, you can build um, more or less the same solution for almost any site building static site generator. Okay. Sorry, having issues. I have to say that it's my first session in this format. Normally, I used to present it's a projector in an old-fashioned way, to say in a way. So sorry for the interruption. Export, build, deploy, and preview. So the numbers. Why not? 1K pages in more or less 4 or 5 minutes. So how we do it? Because as you know, Gatsby has a Drupal source module or plugin, like they call them, that takes leverage of JSON API and gets a fetch, gets every time the content that the page itself it needs. So in a fast way, Gatsby normally it takes the content and it hydrates hydrates Drupal components, and with all this done in a build time, um, it generates all the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript needed for every page that it can encounter. So when we started with JSON API, the benchmarking or the times for the build time were very slow. So we come to with a solution that it's not the exact Gatsby way, because we don't leverage on the Gatsby GraphQL content. We just take the JSON generated by Drupal, and we hydrate directly the the component itself. So it's a lot of faster because, as you know, it disk file or static file reading, it's very the speed of reading from the disk is very high. So we come this with this solution, and we were very surprised to see these results. We have concurrent builds, so when every the editors start to edit content, and when they finish, the content is regenerated in JSON, at least the content needed. Normally, we know that menus, taxonomies, meta tags, they need so many times, like in a home page, when you use many different contents, or we build the JSON specifically for those contents. So we come back here. Okay. So this is how it's done. Drupal with the static suite modules and GraphQL exports any JSON that it can export, taking account of meta tags, content. Menus are also exported because there are a content right now, and we generate every single JSON file. We then launch a trigger like with a pipeline or a GitHub action, or if it's in the same server, you can just launch a shell command to build all the content you need. When we were thinking that we will need an incremental build system, but with the benchmarking we see here, we think we don't need it, simply because it's too fast to take in account of building just what you need. Gatsby has a, like you see here, you can annotate. Gatsby has a bootstrap for start that it's always, not always, but more or less the same. So, okay, taking that in account, the whole building process, it's like 200 seconds. Like you see, it scales very well. So at the end, whoop, this is how we done. how we done. We have a Bastion server and the small Drupal back office server like this, where editors from many different countries and edit content and publish content. And we use mostly for images, for searches, and for the build itself, we use Amazon services, and the cost it's 95% cheaper to build things like this. So in a nutshell, this is how we do it at Vico. We are shifting to this model, and we are using this generic solution because from the time we start developing Drupal Static Suite and making it to go to production, because this is already in production, we cannot, or I cannot say the exact name of the company, but it's a publishing editorial which we have more than 40 countries. So we can say that it works, at least for us. Okay, and from the time we started to now, we are thinking if we can fit it in every project. Know what's the use case, the ideal use case for this suite. If you ask me, we can use it for everything because the development experience it's amazing. The editorial experience is a Drupal editorial, so it's very nice. We use Drupal for the best thing can do it. So in our case, we think that it's a content repository. So Drupal itself can manage content, export it in a normalized way like JSON, and you can consume it in any way you like it. So more or less, this is, I think I'm going too fast. Sorry. Any questions? Let's see. Okay, I'm reading the questions here. I can't read it, sorry. Okay, I start from the beginning. Yes, I can show you maybe, let me see. Okay, I start, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm having issues with the screen. Okay, like this. So now I can scroll. Okay, can you share sites that are using this platform? I'm sorry, I cannot. I cannot do it because the clients the clients asked to be confidential, so no, I cannot show so much to it. This metal great, but there's so much to it. What were the main reasons? Okay, we leverage for developing this this solution, we take leverage of our experience. We made many prototypes with Gatsby, and we studied each piece of the technology separately. So we think that Gatsby has a very good documentation, and Drupal has also too. So that where that was our resource and research platform. Okay, can you show us a little bit more about the CI, Gatsby workflow, pipelines? How often is the pipeline triggered? Okay, the pipeline is triggered every time the content changes. So when an editor, oops, sorry, when an editor's publish node or changes a node, the pipeline is triggered because at this time we generate every single JSON that this content needs, and also the derived, for example, a homepage or a list view or anything that uses this content is generated, and the pipeline is triggered. Okay, what happens with content regeneration when you have an organization with 50 or more dating content all the time and quick succession? Do they build a stack or do they have another solution? We use pipelines, so we have concurrent builds. So every time, I think in our testing, it's more or less the number of editors. So right now, when we think that it's okay. When we have built a semaphore for the for when you have the Drupal content repository and the build system in the same machine. So you have a queue system. So this queue system, if the semaphore is red, like to say in a way, they, they will wait. And yes, in this case, for having a lot of editors, it's really need you really need a cloud building service. Can you explain how to get started when integrating Gatsby with your model? You have to Gatsby for us is a good thing because we have already teams developing React applications and we have teams developing Drupal applications. So I think the best way to start is to make the starter of Gatsby to understand. Okay, this sorry. Okay, now send slides. Sorry. So the best way to start is learning a little bit, or just a little bit is okay. But I think it's better to understand how Gatsby works to take the best way you can. Obviously, knowing React is it's very important. So I think the best way to start integrating Gatsby it's to you can use Gatsby, but it works with any static site generator. So I think the best thing to do for starting with this is understanding the hydrate, how to hydrate or components or pages, and what are the best ways for you to make these things. Okay, How do you handle previewing draft content? Is it another Gatsby pipeline, instance, or something? Okay, I'll try to do draft when preview. Okay, I think you can see it. We take leverage of GraphQL for our preview. So we did this little module to help us with everything for the preview. So we can leverage on GraphQL to take in a UUID, and so we just we build the exact page with the same builder and the same code in the front end side, so we can in real time, more or less, we can render the preview in Gatsby, and this is the way we do it. It's a more or less custom solution for Gatsby, but if you respect the contrast of the content in this case, you can use it for any static site generator. Do you have any documentation for this? We are on it. Okay, static suite. As you can see, we are making it. There's a big disclaimer for the alpha stage. We can say that we are using in a production site environment, so in this way it worked for us. But we have made many custom models for the site. So, for example, for the little parts on the or the different parts. So this is at least right now is the documentation we have. Have you evaluated the difference between the budget of developing a Drupal monolithic website compared to the decoupled approach with Gatsby? So, in our case, I'll read so I can think. Have you evaluated the difference between the budget of developing a monolithic website compared? Obviously, the budget in our case, it's I don't think it's higher or less expensive. For us, it's a good thing. Like I said before, that we can take advantage of having one team responsible for the backend and the content exporting, and we have another team or as many teams as we need to make the front end development. In our experience, it's more difficult to find good Drupal developers, and React developers are in quantity are higher. I don't know in quality because it's not my thing really. So I think I cannot answer exactly this question. How will you allow the editors to preview the content in a website template while it's not published publicly? Okay, like I said before, we can use the node preview that comes with Drupal. In this case, we use GraphQL, so can use the same pipeline of the same process to make the preview, and this is why we do it. How long will it take to build 1K pages if you were using a standard Gatsby method of importing from Drupal? I don't have the numbers, but they are very, very high because they depend on doing every request you need for every piece of content. So It's a way to design JSON API. I think it's a very good module and a very good implementation. But in our case, for small sites, it was, I think, the tryouts was half an hour more or less to just build the things, and it don't scale just because it do an HTTP request for every piece of content. Is there a way to trigger full build by using Webhook? We are only able to trigger full builds by using Gatsby dashboard. So we use pipelines, Bitbucket pipelines in this case, to trigger the build and to make the build. So I think yes, you can as a trigger method. And to launch the build, you can use we can use a webhook. Why not? What could Drupal do to make this easier? Very nice question. I think Drupal is shifting or is going to be the best console repository. So I'm happy and I think the way is going to be uh, mm, maybe making more services or the API first initiative is the most important thing. I think we think that taking Drupal advantage for the like a decouplet. This is more like a hybrid because we use the Drupal's back office administration to edit content, and but we don't use the front end. So everything that goes in a way to the decoupled Drupal, I think it's going to help, of course. You were talking about incremental. Do you have a very concrete plan for implementation, or how could this done in general? We have tried many things. It's in the Gatsby. It's trying to do. Next is trying to do it. So we don't have an exact plan because we are managing full builds of 1K pages in 4 minutes. So for us, incremental builds, it's not exactly the most important thing. As you can see here, we have common features, and that's our priority right now. Can this approach handle millions of pages nodes? Yes, it can. It scales very, very well. Obviously, 1 million pages, it's like 10Ks. I think it's if you do the math, it's half an hour more or less. It's maybe not good enough for you, but for us, it's okay. More questions? Okay. 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 Where do you control the front-end layout of the final Gatsby page so you pass from Drupal through GraphQL, the layout of the page? Okay, we take leverage of the paragraph module. So we export the paragraph order, the type, and all the fields needed um, for the layout to build. And the rest of the layout is built in React. So right now, for editors, we only have the capabilities of paragraph. For now, for us, it's good enough. It's good enough. We love paragraphs. And we use in a component language, we use like a factory component, so we can render every paragraph that's in the JSON content. So in a way we export the layout via paragraphs, and it's that in our case it's good enough. Yes, through GraphQL. Any more questions? So how long did it take you to build this and make the switch to Gatsby? Okay, we started the solution with a custom or I like to say like an artisan solution. We made everything especially for the project, but we think that this could be exported to many projects. Now we think that it is portable for almost every project we do. We were already developing in Gatsby and Drupal. So, and in a way, with the last thing after doing the custom specific way, we abstracted many parts, and this is where static suite become a Drupal module, so we can use it in many other projects. Do you feel the need for Drupal views at all? Yes, maybe it's not a need, but it can be a quality of life improvement, because if you have to write a very complex SQL queries, or you have to access many related content, we think Drupal it's a very good module and very good and easy to maintain. I think depending on your skills, maybe I prefer as a Drupal developer or backend developer, I prefer to entity type manager service to make my queries. But we have you can be a site builder and you don't want to leverage on writing all the queries, so you can export the list, the views, or everything you need with Drupal views. However, we plan to integrate Drupal views with Gatsby. Okay, I want to take the last minute to thanks our, like we like to say, our Jamstack architect. It's called Alberto Silva, and he's the mind behind all the research on and with the help of his team has built mostly the static suite project. So thanks, Alberto. Uh, if there's no more questions, thank you all for being here. I'm sorry for the many inconvenient things. It's the first time for me in this format. Hope you like it. Don't hesitate to call us, reach us for help or for everything you need related to the static suite. And thank you.